He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia high school coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is, Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sports for the next 4 seasons on Sun Coaches podcast. Titan GPS delivers technological superiority and improved player performance through wearable GPS made for high school football and strength and conditioning. From speed training to athlete recruit to workload enhancement, Titan is the easy-to-use yet comprehensive GPS tool to get it done. There's no minimum to get started, and Titan will walk you through every step to success. Message us on X at Titan Sensor to learn more and get in touch. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 4, and today I finally found somebody who may have more T-shirts than I've got. He's been a head coach. He's been coordinator all over the place. He's coached all sides of the ball. He's currently the strength and conditioning coach at Mount Pisgah. Coach Scott Hamilton, thanks for being on with me today.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I'll give you talking about being places. When I student taught at Carrollton a long time ago, I was talking to Ed Dudley. He was the DC there then. The guy currently BT, and I said something. He said, "Yeah, I've been on the Stay and See Georgia tour, and that's what I've been on the last 30 years. I have stayed and I've seen all parts of Georgia."
So, where did you actually grow up?
I grew up in Powder Springs. Fortunately, I got to play for Jimmy Dorsey and Jeff Herron at the same time.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Jeff was the DC, and Gordon Prince was our wrestling coach. So I got to be around some phenomenal coaches to draw from in my career. Right off the bat, you can't be much better than those guys.
So you played football and wrestled?
No, I didn't wrestle. Gordon coached coached the defensive line for me. He always asked me to wrestle. At that time, I didn't. And since about 2001, I was the AD, and my wrestling coach quit at Mount Zion. How Class A goes. I became the wrestling coach too. That right off the bat, was either that or got the program. So picked up wrestling as my second sport.
So you were in high school. You just played football?
I just did. I played football. I really kind of fell in love with lifting weights at that time. And just, of course, it's harder to play multiple sports in big schools. It's one thing I enjoy about not coaching all the classifications, like you said. I enjoy smaller schools because kids get to do more. You get to play a variety of things and try out for things normally. And it's, so much specialization goes up in the big school. We had over 2,400 kids when I was in school in high school back in the late 80s in McKeecher.
So did you go on and play college ball, or did you just go be a student? Or?
Well, no, I played 1 year Garden Web. I was on an academic scholarship, and then I realized that the NIA at that time stood for the National Association of Ineligible Athletes. We had some jokers that could play as a Garden Web. We actually won the conference. But I was out there with a bunch of 23-year-olds, 18, nothing like that. And came home. I played at West Georgia for 2 years, and Frank Volhan was the head coach and running the bone, and thought maybe I could play because I could cut people playing offensive line. But Mac McQuarter came in and realized that a 5'10" lineman cannot pass block in college. I'd see the swim move come and I'd see the swim move go, and kind of knew that. So finished up, joined the fraternity, and had a lot better time in college after that. Really enough, though, my fraternity, I had 4 or 5 head coaches, guys, Rick Saul was the head coach of Paulding County before me. Jeff Shiflett was in my fraternity at that time.
What fraternity were you in?
Chi Phi in West Georgia.
Okay.
Nico Coutinho, coach, the head wrestling coach down at Effingham County, was in my fraternity. Kelby Watts, DC at Central, was in my fraternity. There's Rob Cleveland was in my fraternity. That used to be the head coach of El Rico, New Manchester, and a couple places. So there was a lot of football went on in that fraternity as well.
And you said you did your student teaching at Carrollton.
I did. I student taught I graduated in 1992, 392, and I student taught at Carrollton. got to meet Ben Scott a few times. I got to know him a little bit. Got to know Ed Dully, pretty well then. Ed wasn't my supervisor. Trip Allen got Ed, and I got the other guy at that time.
So what was your first job out of once you finished there?
I went to work the first part of the STC Georgia tour. I went to work at East Paulding right when it opened up for 2 years. Spent some time there with Sam Sproul. I learned a whole lot of football there. And that time, of course, you didn't make. I think I made $19,000 teaching my first year. Learned a whole lot, and then I took a job at Walton for 1 year, and head coach got relieved, and Robin's son, offered me the head coaching job down at the OC's job at Jackson. I went down and worked at Jackson for 1 year, and Robbie got fired. I've had some bad experiences. One thing I'll talk about when people say chase, you want to chase administration. It's just not chasing administration. You want to go to places that have some longevity in their admin. Like I think I've worked for, this is an incredible stat. So 33 years, I think I worked for 28 principals. Counting the 7 I had 1 year at McIntosh County Academy, which is a story that I'll tell later. But I've had like 7 principals hire me and leave before I got on campus in the fall. And that makes it makes it tough as a coach. You expect one thing, and then you go in there and it's changed. So young coaches, you got to taking a job. You want to go somewhere where find out how long what that principal's aspirations are. Is he going to be there the next year? Because it's like you get a job, and all of a sudden that job changes real quickly when the principal, the boss of the building changes. Like it's something you want to avoid.
So you were at Jackson with Robbie, one of my favorite people ever. And did you go with him, or what did you decide to do?
He went to Swainsboro, and I was scrambling because it was late. It was a lot harder to get a teaching job back in the mid '90s. It wasn't near as available. I worked at Lithia Springs 1 year, and then the guy Sam Sproul I worked for at East Paulding called me, and I went to work in Temple, which I followed. In fact, I followed David Thrower. Like he left, and I came into Temple that year. I really liked it. We made the playoffs the first time. It was exciting. I was the defense coordinator then. Still teaching history. Worked there for 2 years. And then I got my first head coaching job at Mount Zion, which is probably my favorite place I've ever coached. We only had about 240 kids in school. It was me, Justin Brown, who used to be head coach up at Trine, Scott Edwards, he's retired now, and our basketball coach, Ed Mann, who didn't know anything about football, but us 4 coached football. And we actually coached all the male sports at the school. I was a football wrestling athletic director. Justin did football and is a golf coach. Scott did baseball and football, and Ed did baseball and basketball. We kind of covered it all. And the whole thing. I had no idea what I was doing when I was 30 years old, by the way. One theories I have about men, when all of us get 30, you think you know it all. You just got to ask us. Now, it went really well, though. We made, we scored a bazillion points, run the wing tee. We threw the ball a whole lot. We had to win. I think that's the year, my last year there, we're some stat. I got in the day one time. We won more games that year with both teams scoring over 30 points. Like we won like 4 games that year, like 38-35, 52-48. We weren't great on defense, but we scored points. I really enjoyed it. I learned a whole lot, doing that on my own, or just us 4. Kids bought in. I really kind of adopted some of my things about, Temple and places like that, about really being about the kids. Because, if as a coach, a lot of people kind of lost track of that. They think it's them. It ain't you. It's them. It's the kids. And if you got to have good kids, and I always say this, that one of the rules you should have, I'll call it the Rule 100 or the rule of equity. You want to treat all those kids the same. You got to take the best kid on the team and discipline him like you do the worst kid on the team. you got to take the worst kid on the team, and he gets all the benefits that the best kid can. You can't give out T-shirts to the best kid only. If the worst kid on the team, you can't run him to death when the best kid on the team misses practice, doesn't get punished. You know, it makes it a long year for them, and it's really a bad experience for the kids. So I kind of try to treat the kids that way. And then after Mount Zion, they were going to consolidate the schools back then. And that was the rumor. I was told that by the superintendent, and consolidate with Bowden. Was obviously that I knew that Dwight Hofstad would get the job and not me. So Coach Teague had called me, and they got offered a job at Carrollton, which is a really enjoyable time, coaching there with Coach Teague. There's a reason why Carrollton's playing a state championship tomorrow. In my interview, they come in, they said, "Scott, how much you make?" I started telling him supplements. He's like, no, Scott. He said, what's your bottom line? And I told him, he said, we're going to give you $1,000 more than what you make as the AD, head football coach, and head wrestling coach to come be an assistant at Carrollton. He said, but we're going to give you everything you need, most of what you want, and if you don't win, we're going to fire you. Like, it was kind of, that was in the interview. I was like, okay, at least, you know where you stood right then, and they were very upfront about it. Like, you didn't have to argue to get stuff, but if you didn't if you weren't going to win, they were going to fire you. Like,
period.
That way. So, and it's been that way at Carrollton since then. Like, expectations really high, but it's also why they've won a whole lot of football games, and and they're just not good in football. They're track, basketball, wrestling. They're good at a lot of stuff because the expectations are so high, and you don't have to fight your own people to get the stuff you need.
Everybody's on the same page.
Oh, yes. And that page is you better win.
Vertically aligned for success.
Yes. And then I was there 3 years. We went 30-8. We're probably some years the second best AAA team in the state. But unfortunately, that team south of us on 27 was a little bit better. The Grangers had it rolling back then.
Yeah, I remember going to watch y'all play when
Trey Blackman.
Yes.
That was hard.
God bless America. The opening kickoff y'all played down there, it was foggy. And it was the playoff. I don't know if it was the 12th game or 13th game. I don't know. It was the state championship. You know how we always say, well, this is the state championship game. And it wasn't, but it was. In the opening kickoff, Trey Blackman hit one of y'all's children. And
Robert, what's Robert's last name? Yeah, never played football again.
Yeah, took him out on the backboard. And I was like, holy smokes, because we were all standing in the end zone. It sounded like a shotgun went off. And I was like,
13-3.
Yes, it was a slobber knocker. I was like, good Lord, that child's playing with some hate in his heart. But there were some licks passed on both sides that night.
Yeah. This is how good they were. So I don't know if you know Marvell McKelvin and then David Brooks. We're kind of the offensive staff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're watching film, and we decide in our omnipotence that this skinny outside linebacker, that's the guy we think we can block. So we run power, and our fullback, Sanchez Houston, big old strong kid. Bucks, we run power sweep. Double team the end. We got it sealed up. I think we cracked the inside linebacker. That guy breaks our fullback. He about kills our fullback. It's Wesley Woodward. He played 12 years for the Broncos. That was their worst looking kid on that defense.
Let's run it, him.
Yeah. I remember a couple years later, and he's like, all SEC Kentucky. Me and Marvell were talking. Yeah, we were really smart, weren't we? Yeah. That was the worst looking dude on their defense at that time.
In your defense, yeah. Oh, man, they had some dudes, but y'all did too. So, it wasn't like, it wasn't like y'all were overmatched.
Yeah. And then, no, it was really, really good football. And then I decided, after a few years, I thought I was ready to take on the world again because I had it all figured out, which God tends to tell you when you don't. I took a job at Woodland High School and had a principal, and then the principal that hired me left, and I got a guy that, I'm not talking about his name, but this guy, the first time that I met him, called me in the office and said, hey, I'm going to make decisions around here. You're going to take credit for them, and if you don't, I'm going to fire you. And I never met the guy. That was the first time that I met him. The second time I met him, he looked at me and told me, hey, I heard you've been talking about me. If I can prove it, I'm going to fire you. I was like, this is awful. We went from having like all but 4 kids in weight training to having 0. Right then.
That ain't good.
Right. Yeah, it was not good. And then I went, and then I knew it was time to leave. This same guy though principal got fired and removed. Started in 2 schools previous. He got removed in April. He went to another school for 3 years. Got removed in like March, and he got removed from that Woodland in February. In fact, he's the guy that got Ray Manus to quit at Roswell.
Man,
and that's an accomplishment if you got the guy that stayed at St. after to walk out the door.
Yeah, that you'd think people do the research on stuff like that.
Yeah, no, they just keep getting jobs somehow. I've never have quite figured that out. But they do. And I say, it's like all administrators. I worked with some really good ones. Chuck Taylor, when I worked with him at Temple, was unbelievable. Cindy Clanton, Dr. Wiggins at Mount Zion, unbelievable people. That's good administrators. But the administrators definitely make a difference. So I decided that I wasn't staying at Woodland, and I ended up and had a couple of good jobs. So I'm going to give a shout out to Kelby Sauls and Kelby Watts and Rick Sauls. They called me and said, hey, Scott, I know you've got a lot of offers on the table to go coach offense. He said that you need to be around us. We're better men, and we'll help you. My life's got a little bit of disarray back then. We'll get you back on track in your life. And thought about it, and they were right. He said other places got better athletes, but we're better people for you. So I took a job, and they helped me get my life back on track. And I spent the next 9 years at Paulding County, 4 as an assistant, 5 as the head coach. And I really appreciate those 2 guys. You got to have guys in your life as a coach sometimes to tell you to stop doing stupid stuff. Because coaching, I tell young coaches this today, you can't have hobbies. You can do a couple things. You can have hobbies, coach football, and be married. You can do 2 of those. You can't do all 3. If you got a bunch of hobbies, it's hard to stay married. You can't go off and do all this stuff. Like, you got to spend time at home. You got to spend time with your family. Because that's really what's more important. Because coaching, if you're going to do it right, takes up a whole lot of time. So I spent the next 9 years at Paulding County. And it really, I got the job. Rick got let go after my 3rd year. Brought in a guy the 4th year. He lasted 1 year, and I got the head job that next year, and really enjoyed that too. We had 30 guys playing football. Finished my last year. We finished about 120. Went 7-3 that last year at Paulding County, which is about as good as they've done. Last 20 years. Coached some really, really good kids. One playing for the Stampeders in the CFL. Antonio Gandy Golden got drafted and played for the Commanders for a year or 2. Really, really enjoyed that time there. Then I knew it was time. I was starting to plan. Now, I'm in my year 25, and I don't know how many years you got, Chris, but you start planning, thinking about retirement. So I got in my mind, hey, I want to work in a small school. I got a young son. I want him to grow up in a small school. So I took a job at McIntosh County Academy. Now I spent a year down there, and it was a great football job. We lost the state championship to Macon County. And in that 1 year, we had a GBI investigation into the school, 7 principals, if you count the guy that got let go twice, and 2 hurricanes, all in the same school year.
That's fantastic.
And we can ask you questions about it later, but there are things that happen down there, and that would be the biggest story of the entire year at other places, and it's just an afterthought. It was absolutely insane.
Not to mention the fact that you have to run a ferry every day to get the kids out to Sapelo.
Oh, yes.
To get them home, to get the Geechees home to.
Oh, man. Best concession stand in the world, though. If you ever go by a basketball game, that's back when I was there, it was $10 for half a pound of fried shrimp and fries. I gained about 20 pounds down there. Wasn't that good for my waistline.
Good golf courses down there too.
Yeah. It's a great area. I love the area, but that school that year was not. Yeah, was and I was working for Robbie again. It was insane. That's the only thing I said. It was absolutely insane. I just can't. And the fact to be so good, I mean, we lost the state championship, played 4 football games in 17 days, because we had that Hurricane Matthew went through. I mean, it was
crazy.
It was bizarre. So then I left. So, my wife goes, we're not staying down here. I went, nope, we're not staying down here. Because it was time to go. So got a job at Roswell. Worked there 3 years. With Matt Kemper, had a great time. Roswell's a great football job. We had some great rivalries. Roswell Milton is a great job. We beat Milton in the year they won it down there. Our tailback towards ACL in game 8. We weren't quite as good. I think we might have had a chance to win it that year. Then Kemper left with Etowah. I took a job with Chino for 1 year. I was a special ed department head. My day job, my last 10 years was teaching MOID, self-contained. Really enjoy working with that clientele and those kids. I was on the Today Show about some things I did with them. I enjoyed that, but it bumped my retirement up. And I got out. I went to private for a year, and then my wife decided she's going to finish college. I took a job up at Pickens County with Grant Myers. He's a great young coach. And went over, and then I came back to Mount Pisgah this year to get my son in a private school. So that's kind of where all places I've been. Like I say, if you want to get into the stories part, you can tell me like what you want to hear. I can tell you some things. I'll give you a really good one. When I worked at Temple High School, there's a difference between working in country and working in the city. And there's a humongous difference in how, kids are kids, but there are differences. So when I was there, my first year at Temple, a lot of chicken plants down there. The senior prank was they were going to put chickens in the school. So they went out on one of the egg farms and got all the cold chickens, got all the males, don't lay eggs, and let them go into school. Well, do you know anything about what happens with chickens, like male chickens, when you leave them unsupervised?
No clue.
Well, they left 30 chickens in the school, and they put Crisco down the halls. Them chickens commenced to fighting and killed each other with the night. So when you got there the next day, there were 30 dead chickens, blood, feathers, and Crisco everywhere in the school.
Oh, no.
Somebody called PETA and said they had slaughtered the chickens and thrown them in the school. The entire senior class got suspended.
Oh, no.
Like all but 2 kids. We had to go play Landmark that week and had 2 seniors.
That ain't good.
But it was. It was like this. It was. They almost expelled them. Like it got on the news. Like it was bad. It was.
Well, when I was at Temple, we had a boy that told us that he had caught not 1, but 2 cobras behind his house with his bare hands. So we called him Ricky Ticky Tavi. You couldn't get Ricky to understand because he was in that bless your heart class, and you couldn't get Ricky to. He was in class with Seth Rogers all day. You couldn't get Ricky to understand that not only were cobras not indigenous to the Western Hemisphere, but he didn't catch 2 of them. But he told you he did.
We had a kid there. They got caught. They had broke into a house, and he got caught. He got caught later because it was back before cell phones. He needed a ride, so he used the home phone to call for a ride. So when the people got home, they had like a call in their call log. So they went. They know what it was. They called him, and he answered the phone in his house after breaking in the house.
That's awesome. Yeah.
He played football.
Yeah, we're trying to win games with these kids.
Yes.
And that's just at
That's
Temple.
yes, yeah. That's just yes. It's other years like that's one thing. Like I have learned. Like I had. Like this is one thing I learned. Like talking about football evolves at times, and like when I first started coaching, everybody used numbers. And now nobody. But before I started playing, people use words. And I had I teach MOID, and I had one of those kids come out for football. And the year before, we were on the wing tee and use numbers and, right, 68 jet. He couldn't play because he didn't know what was going on. But we went to words, and he knew everything. And he became the guy that figured out all our signals and taught the other kids. And I was like, and I thought about when the words mean more to people, like he straightened out what was going on. I'm thinking, and it was kind of amazing to me that, like you said, you have to figure out how to get those guys to do that stuff and win games because Mama sends you her best. You got to coach them.
That's right. And people learn differently. I'm a special ed teacher myself. And, I just tell people, I'm like, look, the kid just learns differently. This doesn't mean that they're smarter or, not as intelligent. They just learn a different way. And it's our job to figure out, I like asking the kids, what do you want to call it? Because I don't care what we call it. We can call it monkey nuts. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever you understand, I'll adjust. I don't understand why we don't say trap right or, counter that way. Whatever. Doesn't matter to me.
I know that the old Bowden, when Dwight was there and they're running the straight tee, that's how they called stuff. And it beat my brains out quite a lot doing that. They did. And that's all they called it, buck right. They jumped all over you. And I'm sure you want to hear parts of the MCA long year. I am assuming, correct?
Oh, that would be fantastic.
So, I took the job down there, Robbie, and Robbie's one of the last of the hard. Like he is a hard-nosed and wins. Like he's going to win football games. So we got a new principal in. Like somebody hired me, got a new principal. I think things are going to be okay. Well, they get that guy in, and it's new principal's got an agenda. So it's kind of weird things, kind of got to start happening. First game we get there. Lightning's like 18 miles away on the radar thing. He's going to cancel the game because he said, according to we're just not playing the game. But that's not what the GHA bylaws say. He's like, I'm in control of the game. This is how we're doing it. So we end up playing that game. Well, somewhere along the line that year, he ends up something happens and they remove him from the building. So that's principal one. So they bring in an interim. So the interim lasts a little while, bring him another interim. About that time, we have a hurricane blowing from the west, and we got to evacuate. Then we go through, and this is how. And I got the job down there, and I just passed MOID. I'd been like a ISS for Paulding County for like 9 years, and they gave me the MOID job and didn't tell me anything. Gave me 13 kids and said, "You figure it out." So I'm learning on the run, teaching, and never written an IEP before, never done GAA, none of that stuff. I'm in charge of it all. So, I'm trying to figure all this stuff out. So we evacuate the first time, we come back, then they suspend Robbie for a game. And so we play a game without him, we win. Clinch beats us pretty bad, like game 2, game 3 in there somewhere. So then we go through about 3 or 4 or 5 more principals, and then they decide to. And meanwhile, about right there at the end of the season, Hurricane Matthew comes through, and we had to evacuate again, and it floods South Georgia bad. So the GHHA comes up and said, "Your region, y'all figure it out." So Robbie goes to me and come back and said, "Guys, y'all playing Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, Saturday." That was our game schedule. So we played 4 games in 17 days. Ended Saturday night at Calvary Day. And they've got some guy named Nolan. What's the guy playing at Georgia? Plays for I forgot his name now. Nolan Smith is playing defensive end for him.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how we ended up. We lose 14-7. End up going to end up messing around and making the state championship game. This is a true story about how that year went. So we get up here and we go get a charter bus. We come up here and we're driving around. We go to the Dome. We're watching the Dome game. And so we're in Atlanta. Of course, none of our kids and only like me and another coach, Steve Johnson, and Robbie are from Atlanta. The bus driver gets the bus stuck in the road in some neighborhood. And people are getting out and screaming at us and hollering at us. And me and Steve are starting to like suck down in the seats because, when people get out of their cars in Atlanta, you're really not sure what's about to happen, So anyway, so we get up. So we got to get up next morning at 4 a.m. to go to the game. We get out there. We're out there in the thing. The bus driver has lost the bus. He doesn't know where the bus is. So, and we're out there freezing. We don't, our kids, they're not dressed. They're from Darien. They don't know. Like it's never really too cold down there. They've got they're just standing in street clothes out there. You get to the, finally get the game. We lose. It's still a great experience. Oh yeah, the whole year was bizarre. Like we go to play at Portal, and we hadn't played in 2 weeks. In the center, we're really good on defense. We got to see champions because we're really good on defense. Wasn't me. Our center snaps the ball from out of the back of the end zone from the 15-yard line. We're down 2-0 Portal. Hold him, get the ball back. He does it again from the 20. We're down 4-0 to Portal. And we had to he hit the yips. I've never seen it before. We had to send him out. We won like 17. It was bizarre. That went on. So trying to as well. Anyway, so we come back to school in January. They bring that guy back. They let go the first time. Something happens again. They get rid of him. They let him go again. They bring in another principal for the rest of the year. I mean, it's like, and also in the meantime of all that, they decide that they're going to, DBI comes in, calling at school. So we have a DBI investigation in the middle of all this stuff going on. It just went on and on and on and on and on. So people can talk about, you're nervous talking to HR and they're nervous actually talking to some guy with a gun. Some guy with a gun, comes and talks to you at school. So yeah, it was and I got to list all the things. I had a kid in my class. I'm sitting there, touching the shoulder, and I eat lunch in my room, and he's choking to death at school. I had to give him the Heimlich, in the middle of the class, and that usually be a big event. That's just one of the small things that went on that year.
I'm sorry, that's not funny, but it wasn't a big event. It's just another day at MCA.
I am telling you, it's like, I'd have to go through all the things that went on down there. You really can't. You can't imagine all the things that went on. It was just, it was after saying, it wasn't ever kids. It was the adults.
Well, I've always said that's the problem with education. Kids are kids. They do kid stuff. They do what they do, but the grown people are the problem. I can deal with kids. I can't deal with adults because I don't have the patience for. Kid don't know no better. Kids do what they. They're gonna do kid things, and you expect that. But my expectations for adults are probably a little higher than they should be.
Well, here's what I always tell about boys are just as dumb as we were in high school. They really do the same stupid stuff that I did. I just didn't have a phone. I didn't have a phone to record it.
Correct.
It's the exact same. I can predict a high school boy. Yep, this is about to go bad. It goes bad.
just because that's the exact same thing I'd have done in high school too.
Oh, I tell the kids that all the time. I'm like, guys, we didn't do anything. Y'all aren't doing anything any different than what we did. The only difference is we had plausible deniability.
Yes.
But y'all go live as soon as y'all do anything, like dummies. And the eye in the sky never lies. I was like, now, when we did stuff, I heard y'all were at this. Nah, it wasn't me. Yeah, it must have been somebody else that looked like me, but I wasn't there. You couldn't prove it.
I tell them all the time, that's like, don't. I mean, I tell them, like, this doesn't work out this way. Like, and it'll work out that way. How'd you know? I'm like, I've seen your name is, you have a different face and a different name, but you're the same kid that I've seen 15 times. It's the same thing over and over and over again.
And you tell them, you're like, guys, don't put me in a position where I can't defend you. Just don't do that. That's all I'm asking you to do. Make it to where I can always say, no, my boys wouldn't do something, where I can pull to Bobby Bowden. No, my boys, they're good boys. They wouldn't do something like that. But when somebody hands me a phone and it's you, I can't defend you then.
Yeah. And when people talk about the difference between publics and privates, and I always like that, because I'm going to state of high school football. I'm going to go and give you, like my preacher said this, the best thing. If you want to coach football today, you better be married to the message and only date the methodology. That you have to decide that if you want to win football games, it ain't how you're going to have won it when we started coaching. It's not the same. It's nowhere near the same. When I first started coaching, I coached the kids that showed up in high school. If you never had move-ins, Georgia wasn't growing like that, and you coached who you coached. That ain't what it is today, and you can gripe about people going out and finding kids or doing this or doing that. If you're not actively trying to get better, and I'm not saying go out and calling people and recruiting them, you're not just going to lose. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, last night they point blank on GPTV, just matter of factly, well, this kid played there last year, and this kid played there last year, and this kid played there last year, and I'm just sitting here thinking, I hope everybody's paying attention, because this is what it is.
Well, it is. And this drives me crazy. Now, I'm a public school guy. I mean, I got too many years not to be. Privates get a bad rap in the fact that they're just all recruiting. At least in a private school, somebody's got to foot the bill. Somebody's got to pay for a kid to get in school. I mean, what you got to get eligible to public school, you just got to have an address and somebody willing to take pictures of the apartment. I think last year, with the big school state championship, both had 11 transfer starters in on each side of the ball. Like Milt Walton both had 11 starters, I think. They moved in the previous year.
Well, you're just not comparing. I mean, it's just like yesterday, this week, I'm sitting there watching, and you're not comparing apples to apples. You're just not. In each game, you've got, this group's playing this group, and if this team has county next to its name, and where that county is, and what's around that county, ain't nobody moving into that county, and ain't nobody moving out of that county. And then they're playing this school over here that's in a metropolitan area. Come on now. I mean, you're not comparing, and I'm not pooping on, they're just playing within the rules that exist. It's just the way it is.
It is. I don't like people gripe all the time. Like, if you want to win, this is what you got to do. I mean, because that's what it's become. I mean, there's no gripe about it, not gripe about it. It is what it is. Like, if you need to get better, or you can gripe about it and get beat. Or you're
going to have to hope you catch, if you're a county school, you're just going to have to hope you catch that once in a generation special group of kids come through.
And unfortunately, people are not into waiting anymore. No. I mean, it's hard to stay places and let the process play out.
Well, I told somebody today what it's turned into is, it's like Avengers Assemble. You're assembling teams, and it's basically travel ball.
It is.
And I don't know how good these coaches are. I mean, me and DT were talking about it today is, the guys we grew up admiring and the guys we grew up being raised by developed players, because as you said, the game has changed. Well, now you just get elite talent. You show them this is the system we're running. This is how you run this system. Now go out there and be an athlete. I don't know how much. I don't know how much instruction, how much fundamentals. I don't know how much of that's really getting taught.
When you get like those guys, they overcome your coach.
Oh
like,
yeah.
You know, like it's not. When you got like elite talent, you don't have to. Like you coach hard, but I mean, you may coach hard, but you don't have to coach as hard. And things you draw up on the board work a whole lot better when my guy is better than your guy.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's like when I was at Roswell in 2018, there's 3 years I coached at Roswell, coached so well. I had eight guys that go to college. And in 2018, in 10 games, we gave up 1 sack. And I don't teach the offensive line any different anywhere else I've been, but I had 3 Division I offensive tackles. And I mean, 3. We had 3 of them. One of them couldn't start. And we had all 3 of them played at the Division I level. That made I was pretty smart. I was a really good offensive line coach. You know, and the left guard might have been the best offensive lineman coach, but he was been playing college, so he was about 5'11", 305 pounds, and probably had 38 pancakes that year. I mean, those guys made me look brilliant.
Well, you know? I mean, they made a comment last night. If these guys look like college football players, because they're just not there yet. They'll be there next week.
Yes, they are.
And, and I told somebody today, our quarterback's coach is Gunnar Watson. He played quarterback at Troy. And he kind of looked at me funny. I said, hey, man, there's been years where, and I'm just going to say Buford, because most people are familiar with them and they'll remember this. They're not the only ones, but I'm just saying, there have been years where Buford's offensive line, now granted, Christian Honeycutt's a dude coach, but there's been years, and you know this, where Buford's offensive line, we've looked out there and gone, and I told Gunnar this, I said, there's been years their offensive line was probably better than what you played behind at Troy. And he just kind of looked at me. I said, I'm not playing with you. I mean, they had 5 show-nuffs up there playing high school football.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. I mean, that's what people, you have to adapt or you die out. You know, that's, which I have, tried to do that, in my life. Like it killed me. Like I say, playing for Jimmy and Jeff, Jeff Herron and Jimmy Dorsey, I really want to run the wing team. Like that is how I think. It's like, I can still, in fact, when I was in high school, like talk about working hard, we're like one of the first wing T teams. Jimmy put us on a bus and we drove to Delaware on a school bus to go to football camp. 17 hours and the big yellow. All the way, went to Toby Raymond and all the guys at the Delaware football camp. So that's how I want to think. But that's, kids don't want to get under center and do those things anymore. Whether it's like a viable thing or run the triple, like watching that guy Harding run through Division II running the triple. You can do that in high school too, but you have to convince kids to do it. But now the portal would open up and off and go.
Yeah, if you're not Alan Chadwick, you can't do it.
No, and it's hard to put that in with him because that's the system. They know what they're getting into, and he wins. But even him, one of their coaches were throwing over their place. He said, "So y'all want to go a little bit?" So yeah, we're having to do this to keep some of our skilled kids. Even he's had to adapt.
Oh yeah, they came out throwing it the other night. Like first 3 plays, they were in the gun. I was like, "Holy smokes! Look at this! It's a trick play."
Yeah, that is it. That is definitely it. You had to change some too.
Well, what else are some things like as far as coaching wise, as far as the coaches go, young coaches these days, have you seen over the years that's changed, good, bad, or indifferent?
I think part of it's still like that impatience. Like everybody wants to, I was like when I was the young assistant, I did everything the head coach told me to. I was happy to have a job. Now everybody wants to be a coordinator. Everybody wants to call plays. Some of the guys they emulate, I don't think they always act right. The negative of it. That's not everybody. There are some really good young coaches out there. Like I think you had Grant Myers, the guy I worked with at Mount Pisgah, Elijah Martinez, played for Frank Barton. And usually those guys, you could trace them back to who they played high school football for. Our Associate D, Jordan Snellings, he's he's upper school AD. He's gonna make a phenomenal athletic director for somebody one day. Is played for Alan Chadwick at Marist. And those guys are really good young coaches. You know, they work hard. They don't mind doing all this stuff. But I can't imagine some of the young guys today telling them they had to go out there and, hey man, it's Wednesday night. We're about to go paint the field. You know, and then we're going to go to a JV game tomorrow away and do all this stuff. You know, I don't know that you had to work a whole lot harder back then, I think.
Oh, Coach, I've had some look at me and say, I don't get paid enough money to do that.
Oh, I think the majority of tickets that I've gotten in my life are Saturday mornings trying to get to a film swap where I've overslept. Like I just, you know, and I kind of miss, you know, being old. I hated the Hardee's and Rockmart, you know, or the varsity going to swap film, you know, bringing all the VCH tapes and do all those things. I think, you know, and two, I think it's also, and it's not a bad thing, but I think the school systems when they started hiring community coaches, and you had to have them today, and there's a lot of good ones out there though, but you get a lot of them, like you don't have a whole lot of say-so about them because their day job is more important to them. And, you know, they come and go. Fortunately, worked some really good ones, but I've seen some really bad ones, you know, that like, you know, you hire them and think they're going to be good. Maybe they played here or there, and they're not all of a sudden. You know, you have to be community coaches kind of change the, you know, the coaching staff. You know, but I think, you know, it's just, I think it's a lot of times it's harder to find coaches that are like willing to work and pay their dues to kind of move up. You know, like, and I still don't understand what all the titles are that people get these days. I don't know what associate head coach is and assistant head coach is. And, you know, I understand you got to have OCDC, and I don't understand all the other stuff that everybody's got to have a title today. That's kind of weird, but.
Yeah, I told my head coach. My head coach asked me what I wanted my title to be, and I wrote on a piece of paper, "That guy." I just want to be that guy, so that when the people are sitting up in the stands, they go, "Who's that guy?"
Yeah,
I want to be him. Like nobody knows. We don't know, baby. That old man's just been out there, and that's Coach Lamb. We don't really know what he does. He's just here. That's what I want to be. I want to be that guy. That's all I want to be. I don't want to be in charge of anything. Just give me my little group, send me down with them, put me up in the box. I mean, I have kids that to this day, you know, I'm at Taylor County now, and we only have 400 and however many kids. And I got kids that swear I don't coach football. I didn't see you at the game. I'm in the press box. Oh, that's where you are? Yeah. Well,
I've seen guys.
They're like, what do you do? I'm like, I talk to them on the headsets. I've been wondering who they talk to on those things.
I've known guys that have quit because they haven't got to wear a headset. Come on. My God, I don't understand this. There's days I don't want to wear a headset.
Dude, the older you get, the more you want less keys and be bothered less. You know?
Yeah.
And I tell young coaches that. I'm like, look, man, there's things that the head coach and only the head coach can do. Our job is to take care of all this other mess that he don't need to be worried with. And we'll be good Indians. We'll go take care of that. Because when Johnny's mama comes around that corner hot, he's got to deal with that. And trust me, you don't want to. And there's nothing better in this world than when a parent comes around the corner hot and you go, hold on just a second, ma'am. The person you're looking for is right over there. And then you keep it moving. You get them in the locker room and, all right, boys, let's get dressed. And y'all clean up. Running backs and receivers, you got clean up today. You know?
I look at Grant several times and, hey, man, he goes, what would you do? That's what I do, Grant. You can do what you want to. This is my advice. But I'm going home right now, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Let me know how it works out.
Yeah. Let me know once you figured out what you're doing, buddy. I just rolled on out the door.
Yeah. You're sitting in you're Big Check. You're sitting in the big chair. Big Check is Coach Rod Harris always called him. That's big check problem. It ain't my problem.
And and that's one of the things too. Like, and I like I said, I enjoy being a head coach. Like, but I was telling somebody today, it is exhausting, being a head coach, especially if you're not a head coach in a good place. And honestly, everybody knows there's probably 15 jobs in the state that are really good jobs. I mean,
Yeah.
and everybody knows who those are.
Oh, yeah.
You can kind of name them, but when you think you're going to be a head coach and you take a job, because typically, like when you say, hey, like why, like, and I've seen this 1,000 times, why can't that school be good? Man, they got all sorts of athletes. I tell people all the time, they'll talk about they'll look at like maybe one of the APS schools, man, they got all sorts of athletes. I said, do you know what those guys deal with during school day? I said, like we were supposed to play one of the APS schools the other day, basketball. And the bus did not pick them up until the game was supposed to start. They're like an hour and a half away. I said, they deal with things you can't function with. That's why they're not very good. It's not those guys that are working hard. But people take jobs thinking they're going to fix everything. And you can't, because the football it's a community. That's another thing. When you ever take a job, the community's got to be on board. Everybody's got to be on the board. The principal, the superintendent, the administration, everybody's got to be bought in, because if they're not, then it just doesn't work.
It's hard to get people to. That's why I started the Best on the Board thing this year with the job opens, on the suncoaches.net website, and we ranked them. And right now, the highest ranked job on the board that we use our ranking systems a 90. That ain't great. The next highest one was like an 82. That's 8 out of 10. So there's 32 jobs open, and only 6, and there's 6 that we put up there as the best on the board. Well, only 3 of them are an 8 or a 9 job. The next 3 are 7 out of 10 jobs. The rest of them don't even hit a 70.
Yeah.
The other 24 jobs that are open right now are 6 out of 10 jobs, and people are probably sitting back there going, "Oh, he don't know what he's talking about." Okay.
Here's an example. Pawnee County. So I got the job. So we went through, and I only got 8 supplements plus myself, so 9 coaches. I'd managed to get 16 coaches out there. Somehow, and I don't know how I did this. I must be a great guy. I had like 7 guys go work for free to be assistants. They were community coaches. And I didn't pay them anything. And all those guys worked really hard. But in those years I was there, I got to pick out and hire one coach that either wasn't on the staff before. I got to bring in one guy. So we go through my last year, we go 7-3. In game 2, my principal comes to me and goes, "Hey man, why don't we fire you? Let's fire the DC and I'll go out and hire my own. I'll hire you a good one." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So, I ignored him and then went through the year, went 7-3, in a year meeting. "Hey man, how'd that I'll go out and hire some coaches." I said, "That'd be great. What kind of openings are we going to have?" Just go out and fire them. I'll go out and find you some. I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" And you were outside looking in 7-3. We had a bunch of kids playing. We had a bunch of kids signed that year. It looked like it was going to be a really good thing. But you're dealing with the admin, because I had 3 principals and 4 athletic directors in 5 years that's trying to go out and hire my staff for them. And that's not a very good. That's not a good situation if you don't know that.
No, I got guys from out of state that ask me about jobs, and they're like, "What about this job? What about this job? What about this job?" And I know they get tired of me going, "It's not a real good situation." And they're probably like, "Oh, he's the most negative person." No, man, I'm just trying to tell you the truth. I'm just letting you know. I don't care if you take the job or not. You can, hey, have at it. I just want you to know ahead of time going in, because woe be unto the one that takes it, and then a year later is back calling me about, "Man, why didn't you tell me about?" No, man, we tried to tell you.
Well, that you can't fix it by yourself.
No,
you got to have that. That's one thing. Like Johnny, and I was that way. I have a theory about men. Everybody, about 30, you think you know everything, and you probably don't know very much at 30, but you think that 28 to 32, you think you got it all figured out. you don't. I mean, think about how old you were that age. You probably thought you knew that old head coach. He doesn't know what he's doing. That old guy's an idiot. Blah blah blah. I think that's another thing. I think that's just a struggle men have at that age. When you get a little bit older, you get your teeth kicked in a little bit. Like, yep. And that's one thing. David Thrower told me one time. I was at a clinic and I was working at Carrollton then, and I was talking to somebody, and David said, the guy walked out, and David said, "Hey, I thought you're pretty arrogant because you worked over there calling plays at that school." I said, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah," because I told him, you had your butt whipped enough at Mount Zion and other places that you understood and remembered. I said, "You're right. I have." Like I have had my teeth kicked in enough to know it ain't me. Because I worked at every job I've been at. I worked just as hard, and I got the same results at every place. It's just not the same.
Well, I'm just glad that you're still able to do it and that you still got the fire to do it after 33 years. And hopefully this is the last T-shirt you'll have.
Me, I hope so too. Like I always say, another thing, like another old coach told me, Ed Dilley again, you got to work like you're going to be somewhere forever until you're not. You work like you're going to be at that place forever until you're not. And that's kind of how I approach it. And of course, my goals have changed. If I gotten older, my goal is for my son to have the best possible education and what fits him the best. So that's what my goal is right now. Because like I told him, I've accomplished all the things I wanted to in coaching. I've been on the national news. I've been on the Today Show. I have been on. The first time I've been on the news, if you want to hear that story, it's a pretty good one. I was the head coach at Mount Zion, and the guy I worked for before had kind of done this. Had a guy quit. I didn't want the guy to quit. It was how quitting's kind of like it's cancer. One kid quits, another kid quits, another kid quits. When I took Mount Zion over there, 13 kids playing football. So I got to the bright idea. I said, "Hey man," I said, "we're going to stop the spirit of quitting." I got all the kids up out in the practice field, grass field, of course. And I said, "Hey, we're going to stop the spirit of quitting out here, guys. And this is this guy's practice shirt and symbolism. We're going to burn the spirit of quitting from this team." So I burnt the jersey. But frequently, some guys, older guys like DT, called me jersey burner. I burnt the jersey. Well, I decided I wasn't going to do that the next. I burned all the hair off my arm when I did it. But the parent called and told the Fox 5 I had burnt that guy in effigy. I was the lead-in story on Fox 5 for 2 days. I had people calling me like, "What? Like, you heard you're burning people in effigy? You're like, are you worshiping the devil?" Like, no, guys, I had that story 32 times. Luckily, something else had gone on in Carroll County, and the superintendent was occupied with that situation. He called me and said, "Hey, man, don't do that again. I understand why you did it." "Yes, sir. Do that again." The next time I was on TV, I had done some stuff with special ed and let them run through the banner, and I got picked up by the national news and ended up on the Today Show. So, also, I think all young guys should have to raise money too. I have a list on my resume of all the things I've done to raise money. And it's like 42 different events. I've done everything. I've done 7 professional wrestling matches, which are also not the brightest thing if you've ever done one. Because all that stuff kind of hurts when they slap you and stuff. The worst one, I've got this from Charlie Jordan. He's retired, which is a good Charlie. He's 80 out of Clinton. He had a cousin that owned an onion farm. So we sold Vidalia onions. You ever done that one before?
No.
So we sold Vidalia onions. I had to drive down to Glenville and pick up all the onions. So I'm driving back, and I talked the county into giving me a special ed bus. So it was me and a special ed bus, not very big. I've got 3,000 pounds of onions about 2 feet behind me. And it's in June, or right there at the end of school, maybe late May. I'm driving back, and I go out 75, and I get stuck in Madonna. And you know what happens in Madonna on I-75? I get stuck in a traffic jam for 2 hours, going 2 miles an hour in a bus with no air conditioning with 3,000 pounds of onions. I thought I was going to die. Everybody should have to do some of those things to raise money. I have one more other good one. When I was at Pawnee County, I had done like an auction. I worked at Carrollton, that the Ben Scott's phenomenal auction. they called me and I said, I'm going to do it in Paulding County. So I did it. I went around every place in the county trying to get things. I went to this office. I didn't know what it was. And I got my things, get my spill, and I left. The doctor calls me back. And because I don't know if y'all can do this or not, but he gave us a free breast augmentation auction off the fundraiser. And we sold it, made some money.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
It could be the best fundraiser known to man.
Oh, that's fantastic. I've never heard anything like that ever. That's great.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I probably got 100 other like stories and things that's like, you go or you kind of like think that didn't happen. It did happen or it didn't happen or, just, it's just, I wouldn't trade coaching for any other job looking back on it. But I also don't know if I'd want to do it all over again. Because it's hard, it's tough, it's the most rewarding thing, to get messages from players and people that you've helped. And I got a kid I got the head job in Paulding County. I done ISS there. I had this kid in ISS 63 days that year, which is kind of a world record for ISS, I think. And so he found out I got the head job, and he was about a year behind in his thing. He said, "Hey, coach," he texted me, sent me a Facebook message. "Hey, coach, AYE, I want you to play football. The reason I haven't been there is I've been in jail for some dumb reason." So, I saw him, right to that, I said, "Hey, man," I said, "if you make up all your units, I don't care if you lift weights. If you just get eligible, you can play football your senior year." I've never made up 7 units, got eligible, and played the senior year. He sends me a message every day on my birthday thanking him for not giving up on him.
That's what it's all about.
That part is all well worth it.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you being on with us. I appreciate you not giving up on kids. And I appreciate you continuing to do what you've done and sharing these stories with us today. They've been great.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that, Coach. And thanks for letting me have it on. And good luck to everybody. And it's job season, and it's time for you to go get people guys.
Thanks, Coach.